Hey y'all, today I want to do just honestly Genesis 24 because the reading it, you can easily find it for yourself. I do keep putting the links to it in the chat, and the deaths of Abraham and Sarah are deep, rich stories to dig into with a great deal of revelation to be had. But the thing of the three that has been speaking to me the most, the one that I wanted to dig into, is Isaac and Rebecca in chapter 24, because it's the one to me would easily be the argument for justifying keeping Esther in the Bible, even though it doesn't mention God by name, or rather, he doesn't speak. I should say. Sorry. It's kind of a chapter where God is moving in the middle of it, and I think that in difficult times and difficult seasons that we all face, that we all struggle through, it's nice to have those reminders that God is in the middle of it, especially when we don't see him. And it's one thing to just say, well, omniscient and omnipresent, all knowing, you can't really get away from a being that is omnipresent. It's not how the word works or the idea. At the same time, that doesn't really help when the ebb and flow and the emotional weight of the moment and the difficulty overwhelm. It is difficult to just grab the reason of, oh yeah, the word. And sometimes it needs that reminder. Sometimes we need that reminder that God is always in the middle of it. So, and it's kind of funny that we're not too far from Purim with Esther, but let's dig in, shall we? 24. Abraham was now an old man. Yahweh had blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham spoke to the senior servant in his household, the one in charge of everything he had. Put your hand under my thigh and swear by Yahweh, God of heaven, God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from among the young women of the Canaanites here, but will go to the land of my birth and get a wife for my son Isaac. The servant answered, but what if the woman refuses to leave home and come with me? Do I then take your son back to your home country? Abraham said, oh no, never. By no means are you to take my son back there. Yahweh, the God of heaven, took me from the home of my father and from the country of my birth, and spoke to me in solemn promise. I'm giving this land to your descendants. This God will send his angel ahead of you to get a wife for my son. And if the woman won't come, you are free from this oath you've sworn to me. But under no circumstances are you to take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master and gave his solemn oath. The servant took 10 of his master's camels and, loaded with gifts from the master, traveled to Aram Naharaim and the city of Nahor. Outside the city he made the camels kneel at the well. It was evening, the time when the women came to draw water. He prayed, O Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, make things go smoothly this day. Treat my master Abraham well. As I stand here by the spring while the young women of the town come out to get water, let the girl to whom I say, lower your jug and give me a drink, and who answers, drink, and let me also water your camels, let her be the woman you have picked out for your servant Isaac. Then I'll know that you're working graciously behind the scenes for my master. It so happened that the words were barely out of his mouth when Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, whose mother was Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with a water jug on her shoulder. The girl was stunningly beautiful, a pure virgin. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came back up. The servant ran to meet her and said, please, can I have a sip of water from your jug? She said, certainly, drink. And she held the jug out so he could drink. When he was satisfied his thirst, she said, I'll get water for your camels too, until they've drunk their fill. She promptly emptied her jug into the trough and ran back to the well to fill it, and she kept at it until she had watered all the camels. The man watched, silent. Was this Yahweh's answer? Had Yahweh made his trip a success or not? When the camels had finished drinking, the man brought out gifts, a gold nose ring weighing a little over 1/4 of an ounce, and 2 arm bracelets weighing about 4 ounces, and gave them to her. He asked, tell me about your family. Whose daughter are you? Is there room in your father's house for us to stay for the night? She said, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah and Nahor, and there's plenty of room in our house for you to stay, and lots of straw and feed besides. At this the man bowed in worship before Yahweh and prayed, "Blessed be Yahweh, God of my master Abraham. How generous and true you've been to my master. You've held nothing back. You led me right to the door of my master's brother." And the girl was off and running, telling everyone in her mother's house what had happened. Rebekah had a brother named Laban. Laban ran outside to the man at the spring. He had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister, and had heard her say, "The man said this and this and this to me." So he went to the man, and there he was, still standing with his camels at the spring. Laban welcomed him. "Come in. Come on in, blessed of Yahweh." "Why are you standing out here? I've got the house ready for you, and there's also a place for your camels." So the man went into the house. The camels were unloaded and given straw and feed. Water was brought to bathe the feet of the man, and the men with him. Then Laban brought out food. But the man said, "I won't eat until I tell my story." Laban said, "Go ahead, tell us." The servant said, "I am the servant of Abraham. Yahweh has blessed my master. He's a great man. Yahweh has given him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, servants and maidservants, camels and donkeys. And then to top it off, Sarah, my master's wife, gave him a son in her old age, and he has passed everything on to his son. My master made me promise, don't get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live. No, go to my father's home, back to my family, and get a wife for my son there." I said to my master, "But what if the woman won't come with me?" He said, "Yahweh, before whom I have walked faithfully, will send his angel with you, and he'll make things work out so that you'll bring back a wife for my son from my family, from the house of my father. Then you'll be free from the oath. If you go to my family and they won't give her to you, you will also be free from the oath." Well, when I came this very day to the spring, I prayed, "Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, make things turn out well in this task that I've been given. I'm standing at this well when a young woman comes here to draw water, and I say to her, 'Please give me a sip of water from your jug.' And she says, 'Not only will I give you a drink, I will also water your camels.' Let that woman be the wife God has picked out for my master's son." I had barely finished offering this prayer when Rebekah arrived, her jug on her shoulder. She went to the spring and drew water. I said, "Please, can I have a drink?" She didn't hesitate. She held out her jug and said, "Drink. And when you've finished, I'll also water your camels." I drank, and she watered the camels. I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, whose parents were Nahor and Milcah." I gave her a ring for her nose, bracelets for her arms, and bowed in worship to Yahweh. I praised Yahweh, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me straight to the door of my master's family to get a wife for his son. Now, tell me what you are going to do. If you plan to respond with a generous yes, tell me. But if not, tell me plainly so I can figure out what to do next. Laban and Bethuel answered, "This is undeniably from Yahweh. We have no say in this matter, either yes or no. Rebekah is yours. Take her and go. Let her be the wife of your master's son, as Yahweh has made plain." When Abraham's servant heard of this decision, he bowed in worship before Yahweh. Then he brought out gifts of silver and gold and clothing and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave expensive gifts to her brother and mother. He and his men had supper and spent the night. But first thing in the morning they were up. He said, "Send me back to my master." Her brother and mother said, "Let the girls stay a while. Say another 10 days, and then go." He said, "Oh, don't make me wait. Yahweh has worked everything out so well. Send me off to my master." They said, "We'll call the girl. We'll ask her." They called Rebekah and asked her, "Do you want to go with this man?" She said, "I am ready to go." So they sent them off, their sister Rebekah with her nurse, and Abraham's servant with his men. And they blessed Rebekah, saying, "You're our sister. Live bountifully, and your children triumphantly." Rebekah and her young maidservants mounted the camels and followed the man. The servant took Rebekah and set off for home. Isaac was living in the Negev. He had just come back from the visit of Beer-lahai-roi. In the evening, he went out into the field while meditating and looked up and saw camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man out in the field coming toward us?" "That is my master." She took her veil and covered herself. After the servant told Isaac the whole story of the trip, Isaac took Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah. He married Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac found comfort after his mother's death. And when I dig into this chapter, when I dig into it, I see God speaking mountains and moving mountains in ways we don't even see. That the prayer would be answered, the servant's prayer would be answered and heard before he even speaks it. That Abraham's trust that God would work it out is seen. And that strikes me as a beautiful thing, that all we have to do is trust in him, do it his way, live the way he does it. Because I'd imagine when that servant was on his way there, he's going, okay, how is this going to work? Just because we don't know. We don't. The best we have some days is to ask, okay, how is this going to work, God? And trust him to do it, because he is faithful to do it. That's the beauty of the relationship. Abraham was so sure that God would do it that it never even crossed his mind to worry about. And that's the kind of trust and faith that Jesus talks about us having as well. You know, when Jesus says you don't need more faith, the faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain. It's a relationship to trust. It's to say, God will move every mountain that needs to be moving. You know, when I look at this verse, I think, just for a moment it pops into my head, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Even if, because God works it all out. You know, the servant gets to see that the master, God, is working all things out. And that God takes care of all things. Pardon the cat. And it's so beautiful that the entire story, God doesn't necessarily make himself visibly known or audibly known like he has in other times, but he still makes himself known by moving, by acting, by being in the unseen. And I would hope that everyone can get refilled from it, honestly, like I am. Get refilled to know that in the middle of the stress, the the spiritual tax, when you just want to flop and sleep for a day and a half because you're tired, or a month and a half, or a year, and just because you're spent, we can be refilled knowing that God's in the middle of it. Trust and know, and be okay to ask. Ask God. Okay, how are we going to do this? Because the servant asked God for a sign and got it. Wasn't a Gideon kind of test of, asking God to perform magic tricks. It's, God, I need an answer that I'm sure is from you. Because I don't know what to do, but I know you have the answer. So, help. And I think if we can all start there, the help, that's a good leg to start off on. Self-help is no help at all. If self-help actually worked, however many years of human existence, and I'll be honest with you, I've seen the arguments for the creation side, the evolution side, and all I have to say is the more time you add to the length of human development, the worse we look as a species. Because, if we haven't figured it out yet, clearly we can't figure it out on our own. If we could, we would have. If we could make the world a better place on our own without a God spark in us, it would not be a dumpster fire. It would not be the chocolate-covered dumpster fire that it is at the moment. But we're in the world, not of it. Saved by grace, calling out to the name Yeshua, to Jesus Christ, the Messiah, and saying, you are Lord, help, save me. You already died for my sins, take my hand. Pull me from the fire, Lord. And he pulls us from the damnation fires of sin and into a new life, where we can trust, where we can ask, where we can hold to him. Where the beauty of who we are is made clearer and brighter and more beautiful in God as He takes away that which is not us to begin with and makes us brighter. That He removes the parts of us that we think are us. Often we believe in society, especially, that we are our scars, but we're not. Our scars may display a great deal of what God has brought us through, but they're not us. They're not. Any more than the baggage we carry is us. If it was us, then we would have been born with it. We weren't. Life, the worldly life, can be a bit of a meat grinder. Being part of the kingdom, we don't have to play by the meat grinder rules. We don't have to be dog eat dog. We can just play with doggy dog, D-O-G-G-Y. Kind of play on the fact that we can rejoice, that we can dwell in Him, and that we can hold to Him as promise keeper. Because He will move and act, and He wants that relationship with us. All we have to do is be honest about wanting one ourselves. And if we don't, if you don't want a relationship, to each their own. But I would beg every single soul on this planet, try. Just try. Ask. Because if you come before the throne without pretense, just wanting a relationship, there's life. And life abundantly. So that even when there are trials and tribulations, there is life. There is joy. And that's a beautiful thing to me. Let's continue Romans tomorrow and pick up on Romans 5. I'll see you guys then. Bye.